We continued our travels in England with a visit to Worcester Cathedral, learned about King John from a knowledgeable volunteer, visited the Worcester Guildhall, met with English relatives, toured Wightwick Manor, and saw lots of wildlife on our walks.
But before we go there, let me ask you a question. Have you subscribed to our channel? If not, I want to say, what are you waiting for? We encourage you to hit that like button and subscribe, and we thank you in advance for doing so.
We drove to Worcester from our home exchange in Stourbridge, found a public car park, and walked along the River Severn until we saw the back and side of Worcester Cathedral. We headed through Edgar Tower, an old city gate from the 1200s, before glimpsing the main entrance. People we met coming out had just climbed the cathedral tower. They recommended it for the views, but advised against it for the climb. Building on the current cathedral was started in 1084, but two previous cathedrals had also stood on the site. As a monastic cathedral during Anglo-Saxon times, it had been a place of education for Benedictine monks who studied a variety of subjects. The monastery was dissolved in 1540 by King Henry VIII. The cathedral was badly damaged during the Civil Wars and later rebuilt. Much of its restoration took place during the 1800s. Many influential people are memorialized or buried in the cathedral, including King John, Prince Arthur, Henry VIII's older brother, and three-time UK Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin and his wife. The most famous burial at the church is King John, who affixed his seal to the Magna Carta. He died in 1216.
This is the oldest effigy of a king or queen in England. It was carved, we think, in about 1230. We don't have an exact date for it, but his face is carved from a death mask, which means when he died, they put wet clay over his face, they let it go hard, they took it off in one piece, which gave them a sort of a mould. They filled it full of liquid lime, which obviously as a liquid would get into all the nooks and crannies, warts and all. And when that dried and solidified, they chipped the clay off and they got a template from which to carve his face. So as far as we know, that's pretty well what he looked like.
That's his
That
face.
is the closest thing you will ever see to an 800-year-old photograph.
Yes, indeed.
That's wonderful.
We know that he's definitely in there because there's a crack here. Now that goes all the way through to the other side. In 1797, there was an argument in the church as to whether he is in there or not, because people used to come and pay a farthing, which is a quarter of an old penny in this country, to touch this in the hope that it would bring them health, wealth, happiness, whatever it was they were looking for. In other words, it was a pilgrimage, a pilgrim site.
Right.
And there was a faction in the church that said legal authorities were taking money under false pretenses for the simple reason that he's not in there. So they thought, well, there's an easy way of solving this. We'll take the top off and have a look. Now, this is made of a rock called Purbeck marble, okay, which along with granite is probably just about the hardest rock in England. Just this effigy weighs about a third of a ton. Now, the sensible thing would have been to slide this, but instead of that, they put two strong men on each corner. After three, lift, and they cracked this. Fortunately, this and this are separate. So they cracked the base, but they didn't crack the other.
That's good.
Damage on his nose was done in the first half of the 16th century. Henry VIII's bully boys did that during the Reformation.
Okay.
But I think they bit off more than they could chew with this, because this rock is so hard that anybody trying to do damage to it with a sword, they would have ruined the sword just by getting that far.
Oh, I see.
When they took the top off this, not only is King John in there, but he was still dressed in what was left of his coronation robes, nearly 600 years after he died. This one in particular is one of the reasons why King John is buried here. This is St. Wulfstan, who built this cathedral. Not on his own, you understand. But he commissioned the cathedral with a little bit of help from William the Conqueror. who bankrolled this place
Okay.
just after the Norman conquest. So he said to Wolston, go back to Worcester, here's a chest full of gold, I will give you an escort, tear down the old cathedral and build me one worthy of the name. And you, sir, you, madam, are standing in it.
Wow.
There were two before this one.
Oh,
the first one, in fact, there was a Roman temple on this site 2,000 years ago. But the first cathedral was built in 680 AD. So we're talking 1,350 years, a Christian worship site here on this spot.
That's wonderful.
That's amazing.
If you believe everything you read in history books, you would think he was second only to the devil.
Yes.
Right.
The
The bad
personification.
King John.
Bad
It is
King John.
absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
Oh, is
It's
it?
complete
Okay.
rubbish.
Okay, because why would he have gotten a tomb like this if he had
Precisely.
been terrible?
Why
Yes.
did they make such a fuss of him? Why did they obey everything that he asked for in his will? This chap here, quite apart from being Bishop of Worcester, he was also prior of the monastery, as was the little minion on his other shoulder. That is St. Oswald, who built the cathedral before this.
Oh, okay.
And when King John was dying of dysentery in 1216, it's a very nasty way to die even now, he wrote a codicil to his will, and he said he wished to be buried in Wolston's Cathedral. See that wide line of tiles there?
Yes.
The shrines to the two bishops were either side here, where the choir stalls are now, and King John was buried between them.
Okay.
His reasoning was that if he was buried between two saints, he'd get a leg up into heaven when he died. When King Henry VIII's older brother, Prince Arthur, was buried in there, because we have another royal tomb in there, the Tudors decided that for whatever reason they would turn this east end of the cathedral into a sort of royal superstar end, if you like. So they dug John up, they built this for him. This box tomb is 300 years younger than this.
Oh, okay.
Okay? They reburied him in there in a brand new lead-lined coffin. Now, lead-lined doesn't sound like very much of a detail, but in the 16th century, if you had lead lining in your coffin, you were somebody. You were really up there with the big boys, you know?
Yeah.
So they thought he was worth making a fuss of.
Prince Arthur's tomb. Had he been made king, there might have never been a Henry VIII. Elizabeth I came to visit and pay homage to her uncle right here. The Worcester Cathedral, a Church of England, is open every day, both for services, meditation, and prayer, and to welcome visitors. The cathedral is dedicated to Christ and the Blessed Virgin Mary. Hallways around a cloister lead to the circular chapter house dating from about 1100, which was part of the monastery and where the monks met each day. Also off that hallway was a cafe, something we almost never skip. Vanilla latte, flat white, and some kind of sweet. Outside in the town, we walked along High Street past modern shops until we happened upon the Guildhall, where we found another knowledgeable guide.
This is Worcester Guildhall, all right? The original Guildhall on this site was 1223, all right? It was rebuilt in 1540s, and then this building was built 1727, Queen Anne.
Okay,
All right. It was designed by a pupil of Sir Christopher Wren, who built St Paul's Cathedral in London and did a lot of the reconstruction of London. And it looks very much today like it did when it was first built. The assembly rooms upstairs, which you can go and have a look. It's got the most marvellous painted ceiling. But this also used to be the law courts. Because once you've been judged and if you've been guilty, you would be sent down. They are planning to do an exhibition down there because a lot of the people from here who were then transported off to the colonies, Australia, America, and wherever, and South Africa, of course. That's where we sent our criminals. All right? This is a list of people from Worcestershire who fought in World War One.
Oh,
Now,
my goodness.
it's not just dead, but if they have a little cross by the side of their name, it means they didn't come home. But we have lots of weddings, receptions, parties, concerts.
Great hall.
It is, it's lovely, isn't it?
Oh, beautiful.
That is beautiful.
And what you've got here, because this is the Guildhall, now the guilds were the groups of craftsmen who came together. So you'd have the Guild of Building, the Guild of Ironsmiths, or blacksmiths, you'd have different guild drapers. So all the different guilds were basically the aldermen. They were the town council of the day. So the town councils actually met on this site for over 900 years.
Oh my
And
goodness.
this is the chamber in which they now meet. This is the council chamber. Again,
This is nice.
it's laid out at the moment for the counting of the votes. All the vote counting here in the UK is still done by hand.
Good. Okay.
Right, good, and it works.
Yes.
As well. And here you can see photographs of the great and the good of Worcester. First set of photographs, 1901. Although it's got a beautiful sprung dance floor, the underlying timbers aren't strong enough to take the weight. In fact, during World War II, this was a Canadian officers' club. Right? And there used to be a sign up in here, apparently, that said if the gentlemen officers would like to dance, would they please remove their boots? As it's taking the ceiling off downstairs. That's Mary Tudor. Right? It's a very rare painting of her, actually. She was only queen for 9 years. She was the half-sister of Elizabeth I, daughter of Henry VIII, known as Bloody Mary.
The hall had portraits of many monarchs, including a young Victoria and King George III.
This whole thing about taxation without representation was not his decision. It was the government at the time, but he took the brunt of it.
Moving on, we found a street of half-timbered buildings dating back to the 1200s. This is Friar Street, like the oldest street in Worcester, right? So cute. This looks like what I think England should look like.
It does.
Leaving Worcester, we headed for a rendezvous with some distant relatives in Rowley Regis. My cousins have kept in touch with our family ever since my dad recuperated in England following an injury in World War II, where he got to know, at left, their mother and aunt, among other relatives. We came to enjoy our evening walks, which included pasture trails near our home exchange cottage. The next morning, we joined two of our relatives at their church service before heading out for Sunday dinner. Sunday is roast day. Yeah, that's what Sunday was always for us. When we arrived at the manor house of Whittington, we weren't sure which door to enter. We didn't choose the correct door to the modern restaurant, but we did get to see some of the quaint lounge areas in the older part of the house. Now we know. This is the kids' portion, roast beef, mushrooms and garlic, and I think cheese sauce. And this is
The roast pork dinner.
It looks delicious. And it was. We could recommend it. After lunch, we headed to our second National Trust property of the trip, Wightwick Manor and Gardens. Set on 17 acres, the Victorian-era house was originally built for Theodore Mander, who was a Wolverhampton paint and varnish manufacturer. Mander's descendants collected pre-Raphaelite art and artifacts for the house and turned it over to the National Trust. how big this room is, though. I love this room.
This is a great room here.
Yes. Oh, this is a nice game room.
That is a massive table.
It really is.
This house is for the guests, you know, the great parlour, the billiard room.
Yes.
And you'll be going up the guest staircase to the guest
Oh, okay.
upstairs.
That, by the way, is the biggest billiard table I've ever seen.
It's a full-size one, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
All the bedrooms are guest bedrooms.
Oh, guest
Every
bedroom.
single bedroom.
Okay.
This is called the Indian bird room because of the wall hanging. It's an Indian bird design. It's the only wall hanging in the house that's not William Morris. This is a guest room. It's a suite of 2 rooms for a married couple, intended for a married couple. So this is the female room and next door's the male by an interconnecting door. And they've been very clever because the bed is inset into like an alcove in each room.
So this is the man's side. Here's a nice reading room. So the servants' quarters, huh? Is this another kitchen?
Yes, another kitchen.
Oh. A quick stop at the cafe, and we were off to explore some of the beautiful manicured lawns and gardens.
I am.
Our last trek of the day was from our home exchange at Newwood Farm to the path along the Staffordshire-Worcestershire Canal where the wildlife was out in force. Ron and I are taking a little walk.
Yes. In the cool cold of the evening.
Got a little cooler today.
Yeah, I did.
It's been beautiful though.
Oh, it has really been beautiful.
We saw these swans, one on a nest.
How about this? Right on our walk. Mom and Dad swan, I assume. That's a pastoral scene.
Some of them have their coats on tonight. Thanks for watching.